today we're gonna have this information interview. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to be here for this interview. We can move on to the next slide.
So yeah, I'm gonna go over the whole overview of today's interview. So we're gonna start off with me going through the overview, and then at 4:10 we're gonna start going into the interview where we'll be asking questions and our professionals will be answering. And at 4:55 we'll wrap up and we'll have a mini reflection where everybody reflects on the interview today, and then we'll end the call at 5.
So these are the businesses who have previously supported Passion Impact, and we encourage you to support them when you can, especially throughout this time. So thank you. So one way you can be successful today is if maybe you can grab a pen or paper and throughout this interview form questions that you could ask.
All right, in terms of meeting expectations, want to make sure that we show gratitude and respect for everybody on this call. Rue is watching us, as you can tell up here in the top right. You are muted, and the facilitator can unmute you when you raise your hand. So if you have a question, let's raise your hand. Everybody in this room, make sure we know how to do it. Go ahead and raise your hands now. Awesome, awesome. Yes, great, fantastic. You're doing fantastic. I love it, I love it. All right. Kayla, did you already raise your hand and put it down?
Yep.
Okay, good, just making sure. Because you were the one at the very beginning we asked, and it took you like 10 minutes to figure it out. Again, no nudity, vulgar or demeaning language, or inappropriate sharing your screen or inappropriate background images will be tolerated. We do reserve the right to remove any individual from our programs and to ban forever. So we do take that very seriously. We want to make this a safe place for all students and participants. Please make sure that you transition your name to the first name only. And if you can do that right now, just to make sure, I'll make mine my first name.
How do you do that?
If you go to the same thing where it says participants here and yourself, you should be able to click a button that says more. Under more, it'll say rename. Nice, nice. Good. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, and Adriana's here. Sweet. Welcome,
Hi,
Adriana.
Adriana.
Last thing here is just have fun, stay engaged, ask questions, be curious, all that kind of good stuff. Pass it off to Kayla.
All right, Chrissy Wood. She was a Portland native and graduated from Wilson High School in 2005. I said 200, but yeah. Went to OSU for mechanical engineering after a career test told her she could be good at it. She ended up with a degree in industrial engineering and started her career with a company she interned at during this school. And since graduating, she has worked for 3 companies, has had 7 different titles and 12 different boxes. Wow. And she is also a lead singer in a band and a commissioned artist. Handing it over to you, Danya.
Wow. Okay, here we have Emilio Jimenez. He has a bachelor's degree from James Madison University, graduated school and doctorate in mechanical engineering at Virginia Tech. He is a published researcher with experience in tire modeling and tire performance on ice. Currently a simulation engineer responsible for validating the brake system on the commercial grade vehicles. He enjoys outdoor activities such as snowboarding and fishing during his free time.
Awesome. So let's just do a little bit of a group introduction here. I'm going to make sure that we're all unmuted. So just in case, before I do that, if there is a loud noise, you can click mute for yourself on your background. I'm unmuting everybody here. Introduce yourself and your pronoun, and the question of the day is, what's an activity you have been doing while at home? So I'm Stefan, my pronouns are he, him, and I have been playing lots of drums and gardening. And I am going to pass it off to Chrissy.
All right, my name's Chrissy. She, her are my pronouns. And I have been doing a bunch of learning at home. I've been taking a crap ton of online classes to grow my skill base. Also, I'm sitting on a bouncy ball. Oh, passing it to Kayla.
Yeah, I'm Kayla, and I go by she, her. And an activity I've been doing is probably watching Netflix and eating, because I really need to catch up on my shows. And yeah, and let's go with Danya.
Yeah, my name is Danya. My pronouns is she and her. And the question, what activity have been doing while at home? Recently, I ordered a card game, so I've been playing We Are Not Really Strangers with my family.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Fun game.
Okay, let's go with Emilio.
Oh no, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh no.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I was like, wait, what?
So yeah, my name is Emilio. I go by he, him, and something that I've been trying to do while at home is trying to learn how to give myself a haircut.
Oh.
So that's
How many
that's
times have
something
you
I've been
given
working
yourself a
on.
haircut?
Yeah,
Have you done it like every day? You're like, all right, today's the day.
it's been a weekly thing right now, but I'm trying to let it repair itself, grow back a little bit.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for getting to know each other. I'm going to hand it back to Kayla and Danya to take on. Oh, actually, no, we missed Adriana. I'm so sorry.
Oh man, you missed Adriana.
Adriana, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, nope, she doesn't. That's okay. All right, I'll pass it back to Kayla and Danya.
Right, yeah. Danya, you started off.
Okay, so are we going for okay, so we introduce you and we've said where you've gone to school and this and that, but can you probably tell us this something I would probably miss from that short presentation that we gave?
Let's start with Chrissy.
Something that you missed. I would say that I didn't really know what I wanted to go to school for, and so like I just literally took like an aptitude test at a counselor's office, and they're like, "You'd be good at engineering. You like solving puzzles," and I was like, "Okay." So that's what I chose, and I think in retrospect, I could have done just a little more looking to see like what the arena is. Like there's so many jobs, and yeah. And then once you choose one, you don't have to stick with that one. Like you can just change your mind, and that's okay. And that's also a thing that I didn't really feel the agency during school to like try something totally new. But that's totally an option.
Wow, I didn't know that. Taking a test to determine your future, that's like what you see in Divergent. I don't know why I keep bringing that movie but I just think of that. It's awesome. What about you, Emilio?
Oh, you're on mute again.
I am on mute again. Okay. So I similar to Chrissy, like I started my job or I chose my job after interview or after being an intern at this place. I ended up liking it a lot. Something I missed there was that it kind of required me to make a pretty big change in my life. I had to move 12 hours plus 14 hours away from all my hometown where I've grown up and everything like that. So that was something that was pretty impactful there with that, and that was something to learn.
A big move for sure. I want to jump real quick back to Chrissy, and I'm not sure if Amelia, you took one of these, but I know what an aptitude test is. I'm not sure everybody else knows what an aptitude test is. Can you tell us a little bit about possibly what it is and why your counselor had you start with that?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was interested in. And I was like, well, I really like doing hair and I really like art. and I really like singing. And I'm good at math. And like what should you go to school for? And like, I had no idea. And so the aptitude test asked a bunch of questions to like, do you enjoy these kinds of classes versus these kinds of classes? Do you want to work with people, or do you want to like work with like solo projects, or more on a computer, or more with your hands? And like asks you kinds of things that you're interested in, and then that can narrow down potential career paths that you might like. And like one of the ones was mechanical engineering, and like I was good at math, and I really like working with my hands, and as well as on computers and trying to solve puzzles. And it's like mechanical engineering is always, you're always solving some kind of problem, and you can use it a lot of different ways. And it seemed cool, so I was like, great, that's great, all done.
Oh, wow.
And Emilio, did you have any experience with an aptitude test at all, or is this?
Yeah, I took something similar to that, and it kind of pointed me in the right direction. It actually chose a mathematician for me, and I felt I was pretty good in math then, but I didn't think it was something that I wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to do something with technology and problem solving, kind of creativity, and I knew of engineering as being a field, and I knew that there were specific roles in engineering. And I think something that was smart of me doing at the beginning, at least, was doing kind of a general engineering. And that way I got the picture, got the big picture of like each individual role. And then, later on in my undergrad, I was able to kind of focus on one thing. And that being, with my courses kind of helped me to get that focus and to narrow down what I wanted to do.
Mm.
Awesome. And it's cool to hear that both of y'all had that, a little bit of an experience with that aptitude. Definitely was privileged to have one of those when I was growing up, and that honestly directed me towards marketing, despite how engineering was a really cool avenue. Just for me, math was not as good. So, but I know that Kayla probably has more questions.
Yeah, so since we're talking about directions and like knowing where to like start and going towards this career, what guided you to determine which college to go to? And yeah, that's my question for you. Let's go with Emilio this time.
Yeah, so for me, it was a pretty easy decision. For me, it was based off of first of all, my hometown. I was from that area, so that was pretty convenient. And second of all, it was really the financial help that I got. I mean, I applied, different places, and I applied for financial help from all these places. But at the end of the day, I was looking at something that was willing to help me out the most. And I found that James Madison was able to provide that.
Oh yeah, great. That's like just financial and convenience is probably most of your top kind of reasons of picking that college.
Yeah, exactly. And it's engineering was new for JMU back then as well. So it's still, I mean, it's probably been 10, 15 years now. That's been going, but it's a fairly new thing. And I knew that I wanted to kind of, start with that program, and kind of, because I think when things are new, there's a lot of changes and there's lots of opportunities. And I kind of don't want to take, that opportunity that, hey, these could be some big changes in here, and, things can go differently, but I'm able to be a part of something that's new and, building.
Yeah, taking out from opportunities. Did you what about you, Chrissy? Did you get any like opportunities like that, like convenience and like distance and also financial like benefits like that?
Yeah. I didn't think I was gonna go to college. I didn't have 2 years of credit for foreign language when I graduated high school, and my counselor told me that I couldn't get into college without 2 years of foreign language, and so I was just gonna go to PCC and like get that. My mom was like, "You should apply to real schools." So I applied to Portland State and Oregon State just to see what would happen, and then they both accepted me, and Oregon State gave me more money.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. So I see that for me, since like I'm barely gonna start college, were you like any nervous about that, like starting like at a new college?
Totally. Like, I'd never lived anywhere but home, and now I'm gonna go to this place with a bunch of strangers. And I think I knew like 2 or 3 people who were going there, but we weren't like friends. And so it's just kind of like, okay, you're going to go and live in a room with a person you've never met and take a bunch of classes that are probably hard, that are topics that like you don't know much about. And it's super scary, but turns out people are nice and you just make friends. Works out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Emilio, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a shocking experience. I mean, you go in, to something completely unfamiliar from what you know. But I think something that kind of stuck with me is that everybody was in the same boat. All these freshmen are coming in, and everyone is kind of unfamiliar with their surroundings. So you kind of use that, with your friends, and you end up supporting each other, and you're learning from each other, and I think that definitely helped me kind of get through that first freshman year.
So talking about how you guys went to school, you guys had to gain skills. So what were like some skills, or like that one main skill you guys are constantly using for engineers? Since I don't know.
I would say that it was a different kind of learning for me to like be in college. You have a lot more freedom to do like whatever you want, whenever you want. And so choosing to study and then not just like read the book, like you have your chapter, read the chapter, like read the chapter with the intention of understanding the chapter, like consciously owning your own knowledge, and like if you recognizing if you aren't comprehending something and like taking ownership of that comprehension and like taking whatever steps are necessary to figure it out, which means like having a study group with your peers or going into office hours or asking questions in classes. Like that was a shift and a challenge for me. Was like, I'm responsible for my learning and like nobody else.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Chrissy said, that's very. I mean, I felt the same way, and I think something that also I felt that really helped me a lot was the technologies around me. I think there's lots of great resources. Just learning sakes. If you're going to the library, for example, there's lots of great tools and technologies that help you kind of really almost exactly find the answer of what you're looking for every time. So I think in using technologies around it, and now with the times. Technologies keep getting better and better, so I think things are going to be much more easier for us.
Yeah, I agree with that. With just over the years, technology has obviously advanced and come to its point of just expanding more and more every day. And I feel like it's different. Well, with my generation, we grew up with technology, so it's like really weird that if we were to take ourselves back in time and not have technology, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, that's great. But let's move on to this question I have, like taking a step back, going to the beginning. Like this is a question I have. I know that you guys are both under engineering and stuff, but can you go more in depth with what you actually do right now? And let's go with Chrissy.
Okay. So I'm a process development engineer at Nike in their manufacturing innovation team. So we are researching new technologies to make shoes more sustainably and faster, using less resources, with less energy, less water, safer chemistries, like smaller footprint. So I am responsible for a couple different projects, and on those projects, I am running I'm like organizing and making reports for different trials and say like, okay, if we run it at this temperature, how well is this curing? And like, can we get it to cure a little bit faster? Like what variables, like does humidity matter? Does speed of the conveyor matter? Like all of these things, how do we dial in this process? And then how do we transition this new technology and process to our manufacturing partners in Asia? And like, how do we make sure that it works the same in Vietnam as it does in Korea or China, because they have different climates and different they'll probably have different machinery too. And so is it going to be different from this machine manufacturer to this machine manufacturer? Like, how do we make sure we're getting the same product out?
Yeah, so there's just a whole business side of the shoe world. I couldn't say that, but yeah. So what stuck out to me was Nike. Not that I'm wearing Nike right now, but like, I love wearing Nike shoes, and it really brought me back to a time where in physics freshman year we took our time, like a project where we built shoes and designed like the sole of the shoe to make sure that it works really good, or like how effective and how fast we could run in it and the momentum and all that stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a ton of teams working on things like wet traction and dry traction, and does it work well? Does it work the same on a basketball court as it does on asphalt? Like wet asphalt versus dry asphalt, and like all of it. Like, does it scuff? Does it not scuff? Like, how fast does it abrade? Like, how many miles would you get on it before it wears through it? There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of components, but yeah. So Chrissy, you work with shoes. What about like shoes and Nike, you know, the big, more of a clothing line kind of thing? What about you, Emilio? What do you work on?
So I am a simulation engineer at Navistar, and Navistar builds commercial vehicles like the big tractor trailers you see down the highways. We do trucks as well, like garbage trucks, snow plows, any kind of utility vehicle that you see, like electrical companies will have some a lot, or will have a lot. And our biggest core of the market is also school buses. So you see a lot of the IC buses. So we do all those school buses. And my my role in that is testing out the brake systems. So I get a vehicle comes in, and my role is to make sure that this vehicle passes different regulations, whether it's stopping in a certain amount of distance, whether it's being able to take a curve, or maybe a turn around a curve at a certain velocity or a certain speed. Those are the kind of things that I'm going to be looking at and making sure that the brake systems work and are at least adequate or enough for this vehicle. Because these vehicles, they're carrying 80,000 pounds, and you want to make sure that these things stop before. So that's what I do, and I do that. Like I said, I'm a simulation engineer, so we do that in the computer. So we'll take some physical test data, and then we build our simulation models, and then those models we can build and we can test those to test the brake systems, and we also do different things: steering, aerodynamics, you name it. Everything on a vehicle is always tested.
That sounds really cool. Like, I've seen videos, they taught us in driver's ed, they would show us videos of like Teslas testing their brakes and like crashing, and they'll have like models of like dolls in it. Do you guys do something like similar with that? Just like testing dolls as humans, I guess.
Yeah, no. So funny thing is, we actually had so with these like crash avoidance systems where the vehicles will stop before they get to an object. Obviously, when we test these, we don't want to put a real vehicle inside of in the front in case it does crash it. So what we built was we built a foam car with a metal sheet inside of it to kind of replicate a real vehicle. So that way, if we did hit it and the vehicle didn't stop in time, it would just kind of bounce off the foam car and it wouldn't cause an accident. So
wow.
Yeah.
That sounds hella dope. Oh my gosh. I think I saw some pictures on your like introduction. I saw like a foam. So I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. I like that. That was awesome. Yep. Like it looked exactly like the car. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Could you pull that up now? I know that might be relevant to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let me share this here.
I was like watching like a show about cars. It was so cool. So yeah, I'm really interested in cars. So it's such a good thing getting to like know about it.
Yeah. All right. So just to kind of go over a brief history. This is my times at JMU. I took a lot of advantages of the things around me and going on different opportunities. And this was actually a study abroad program I did when I went to Africa. I went to Kenya. This was actually the summer before I met Stefan here. So this was a great trip, a great opportunity. At Virginia Tech, I did some testing with tires. I did some tire testing, and we're looking at measuring the temperature at the contact interface in the middle, and seeing how much the temperature rise leads to any water melting if it's the case. So now at Navistar. Like I said, we take real data from the physical vehicles, and we use these data to build our simulation models. And then for this one here that you're looking at, this is a tractor going around just a simple turn. And we take this data and we build simulation models as such that kind of gives us an easier method to test things. Instead of putting it on an actual vehicle, we can just sit down on a computer and test it and get the exact same results. So that's what we're looking to do there, which saves lots of time and saves a lot of money for the company as well.
Now, and you're having to code all this stuff too, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, this is a lot of it is MATLAB based. If you guys are familiar with that, it's an engineering tool that I learned to use in my undergraduate, and I've continued to use it through my undergraduate, graduate, and now here at work. So it's called MATLAB there. So this was what I was talking about here, where we built this kind of fake car made out of it was foam, almost like Play-Doh, and we try to make it look as similar as to a real vehicle. As you can see down here, it's forward at the back end. And we put a sheet of metal there in the middle to kind of simulate, an actual vehicle. And that radar will pick up that camera. Oh no, this looks a little tilted there.
Wow.
Yeah, that did not come out as I planned. Yeah, this happened here.
Is that how close it stopped, that first picture?
No, we just kind of lined it up the first time. Let me see here. I can get this.
So that's like a video from inside the cab of that. You
Right.
called it a what kind of truck? Because I was like an 18-wheeler. Like, what's the name that you give it?
Yeah, so these are tractors. So they're actually all called tractors, and then as soon as you put a trailer on it, it's called a tractor trailer. So just a simple 18-wheeler, like you said, tractor trailer. And it's unfortunate that this video is not coming up, but in the video you can see the kind of the system alert that, hey, there's something here, and then you actually see the vehicle come to a complete stop before it gets to that object.
Oh, wow.
And that we offer on our vehicles right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh, that's so interesting. So like, I know you guys do so many calculations, but like, what if like something goes wrong? How would you guys like approach something,
Start with Chrissy.
Stuff goes wrong all the time. Like, it's just, you should expect that nothing to work as you expected all the time. And you just do your best with what's left. So we make all these trial plans. Like I went to China to run a trial, and like I was there for 2 weeks, and day one of the thing, there was like issues. They're like, okay, well, I have this whole trial plan, like all these dates and all these things, and you have a team there and you make the best of it and you do whatever you can. So it's just a lot of problem solving on the fly and like find out what is wrong and what you need to do to fix it. And like, it's not, in the moment of trying to get something done, it's not necessarily the most prudent to figure out who or why or how it went wrong. Like, just get through it. And then you can do like a post-mortem after the fact. And, okay, why did that fail? So we can avoid doing it again next time and avoid failing in that way next time. But just expect that things won't work as planned, and like that's okay. And like fail fast and fail forward, and like just move through it.
Yeah, okay. What about Emilio?
Yeah, so I mean, failing is a good thing. It teaches you. People learn a lot of lessons from failing. Things don't really come out first try. It's very hard to get things right in the first try. So for failing, there's always something to learn from it. And an example at work is, sometimes we get assigned a project and we can't get it done by that date, and you really have to sit there and, again, like Chrissy says, it's a team effort, and you want to look at what you can do at that time, because that eventually is going to build up to what you want to happen at the end, and for you to solve that problem and eventually find a solution for this issue that you might be having. So you really just feel kind of, I would just really focus on what I'm able to do and what's under my control, instead of trying to tackle everything at once, because you might not ever get anything done like that.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow, that makes sense. You said about you guys have like a due date. Like, how long would like a due date go for?
Yeah, I've got it's really set by what you think, or what at least for me, my boss has asked me, hey, when do you think you can get this done? So I would give something reasonable, and it's never a bad idea to include maybe an extra week, because there's always going to be problems and issues. You can include extra time, whether it be a week or a day or so, but you always want to be prepared, because you can never know. There's always can be something that comes up and you're just not prepared for it. So it's always going to save yourself a day or two just in case.
I totally agree. When I first started working, someone asked me for something and I'd be like, oh, I could get that done in 2 days. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, that's the easiest task. And then it was like a week. And I learned very quickly, like, just give yourself a buffer week. Stuff takes longer.
Yeah, exactly.
You think like people are going to come up to you. They're going to talk to you. You're going to have other projects come in. You have to answer all the emails, like just an extra week.
Well, I definitely can empathize with that. I started a list of 10 things I want to get done in a day, and if I get one done, I'm successful. So I've got a few questions here. I'm not really sure where to start. I've got so many questions, actually. I want to first touch on something that we haven't talked about yet, and it's a practice within kind of an overall process development, and I think that all engineers probably should know of it. It's called Six Sigma. And I'm curious if there's anything that you do in either of your jobs that remotely touches on it, or if you have experience with it. So let's start with Chrissy.
I have my yellow belt in Six Sigma right now, and I'm actively taking one of my online courses is to get my black belt in Six Sigma. So I'm like, I just finished the course, like the Define chapter today.
Nice.
So,
and what exactly is a black belt in Six Sigma, so we all know?
it's like a certification to appropriately and effectively run a project to make a process more efficient and reduce variability. So a Sigma, like a Six Sigma project is designed to reduce variability in a process. And that process can be manufacturing, or can be in a kitchen or a hospital or a school. Like any process has variability in it, and the closer to perfect you can get it every time, the more satisfied your customers are going to be, and the less money it's going to cost you.
Awesome. That's a very succinct way to describe it. You probably said that definition 15 times and just chopped it up and made that process a little bit easier for yourself each time. Amelia, is there anything that you touch on at all, or do you have any experience with it, like Chrissy?
No, I haven't had any experience with Six Sigma. It's I understand it's a management tool, and like Chrissy said, for processes and looking at that, but I have not had any experience with that. In my individual role at work, I'm kind of a solo team right now. So it was a group of two, and now it's just me. So I'm kind of really managing myself, kind of reporting to myself at the time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, or it's not a good thing as well. But yeah, I've never had any experience with that.
Cool. Well, it's interesting, because I in my mind, when I was in college, I had one teacher who kind of spanned between business and engineering, and she made me think that like every engineer did Six Sigma. So it's nice to know that it's like more that process related. So more about what Chrissy's doing. Chrissy, do you want to talk about anything more about that one? I do have another completely separate question. So if there's anything else that you want to talk about on that, feel free.
It's a super effective tool, but not everybody needs to know how to use it. So like in a place where you're going to implement some Six Sigma processes, you just really need a few people to be trained with like a green belt or a black belt, and then they can like direct the flow, and they get a team from like whoever owns that process that's going to be changed. Like you need the subject matter experts, you need people who want to be involved, you need buy-in from your management. Like everybody has to be excited about making this process better, and then like one or two people need to know how to do it, and they can just like direct the flow. So like you can still use it without knowing a ton about it.
That's awesome. So definitely consolidating that knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be a completely separate question, and this is, so as people of color in an industry that may not be entirely people of color. I'm wondering curiously, how do you navigate any areas that may be unhealthy or potentially harmful? And how do you make sure that you yourself are keeping yourself in self-care? I could go on asking that, but I'll start with that. And let's start with Emilio.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I have not experienced anything negative, I'd say. Definitely, yeah, I've never really experienced anything that I guess that would be different, or maybe, kind of out of the way, or yes, it's a good question. I just don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. It's always been accepting. I think with engineers, as at least for me, engineers, I see a lot of engineers as being kind of a team, team player. They like to ask questions with the teams. They like to sit down and discuss ideas with each other. So I think in that sense, with my profession, I think everybody is welcoming and everybody is kind of eager to work with each other. So I think that would be that'd be my take on that. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Emilio. Chrissy, how about you?
I think like the biggest, like I agree with Emilio. I don't have many like things happening that are like, you're a brown engineer. That's weird. But like no one's really ever guessed. Like if they guess my profession, no one ever guesses engineer. They're always like, oh, you're an engineer. That's cool. And I think that comes down to representation. Like there just isn't any. I just heard a presentation that said 2% of incoming engineering students are Black women. And so it's just like,
Gosh.
like I wouldn't have been one. I had no idea that was an option except for this test I took, which was like random that I took it. And so it wasn't even an idea of mine. And so I think that just generally speaking, if we could, as a culture or as a people, like put that idea out there, like, hey, this is possible and you are totally capable. And like, that's a fine activity. If you are into this, like get it. Yeah.
So maybe there's just kind of like a lack of awareness or accessibility to becoming engineers in that sense.
Yeah. Like who, like I didn't know that I could, if I went back and like did it again, I would get a dual degree in architecture and civil engineering. But like I didn't know what any engineering was. And they're like, you should be mechanical. And I was like, okay. And like, that's on me. I didn't do any research. But like, I don't know, I just didn't know that I had options.
Yeah, definitely an issue that we see with a lot of students nowadays, not having those options readily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you guys. That was great. And I just wanted to go back to this specific word that I kept hearing, like teamwork, teammates. Yeah, I'm really familiar with that. And talking about that, let's talk about you as an individual, as a engineer yourself. Do you think that there's a like good skill set that you should have as an engineer? Like, since it's like a really weird question, but that's what I have. Like, is there a sense of type of mentality you should have, or just a skill that you think that wouldn't help really make it easier for you as an engineer? If that made sense. Yeah, let's start with Emilio.
That's a good question. I think something that I struggled with early on was kind of, as an engineer is kind of getting the bigger picture and, realizing that there's more than one solution to, several things. And that I think kind of plays with teamwork, because, those other solutions wouldn't have come up if I, wasn't part of a team and had heard other opinions. So I think that was something that really popped out at me. I think early on it was, hey, there's multiple ways to do this one thing, and there's multiple ways to do the correct thing. Which one is better? That's, what the team will, put aside on.
Totally. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that like a skill that I had to learn is to have like a growth mindset the whole time, and like understand that my ideas have value, and that they're not stupid. Like, and that when I'm wrong, people are like, oh, that's an interesting thought, maybe something else. And like understanding that me not knowing something is an opportunity to learn something, and that no one thinks you're dumb if you say something that's not smart. In fact, that they will think that like, oh, she's learning, she's doing better, she's growing her skill set, she's asking questions, like just learning how to leverage the group genius and the community around you to help grow yourself, and understanding that nobody thinks you're dumb.
Thank you for going over that. Oh my gosh. That's what I feel like. I don't really like, I don't know, I don't really talk smart, but you know, I get what people are saying, and it's really hard trying to get what I'm thinking out of my mouth. But yeah, thank you. And let's hand it over to Danya.
Yeah, good thing you brought that out. I really liked how you answered that. So I also keep hearing how like you guys have a lot of communication going on when it comes to like a project and work. And going back to this time, how has like working at home? I hear Emilio has to work at home, and pretty sure Chrissy. How do you guys work from home now that things have changed?
So
Go for it.
yeah, sure. I think the biggest changes that I've done is I've found that we've had a lot more meetings. I don't know if that is because we're looking to talk more with each other, maybe we miss each other, or if there's more work getting done. My company has actually said that we've been more productive while we're working from home, and I think that's got something to do because we kind of, you know, for me at least, I'll sit there at work an 8-hour day, and you know, I kind of time out my breaks every once in a while. I'll get up, whether I'm in the middle of something or not, I get up. But I think here at the house, I kind of take mini breaks and then kind of get right back to it. And I think, you know, that at the long term, you know, at the end of the day, I think I get a little bit more done because of that. But other than just more meetings, I haven't really found, you know, a big disruption with what I was doing earlier.
I found like we're not able to run so many trials, so like test out different processes or materials. So that's been like a bit of a challenge. But on the other hand, I've been way more productive at like writing my trial plans and my reports and getting back to people and like finding out all this information, getting my like black belt certification and getting all these training things done. There's a lot of chit chatting at work, and there's a lot of distractions that aren't necessarily unproductive, but are not towards my work. Like my coworker needs help with a project, and that's fine, and like I'm happy to help her, but that means that the hour I spent on her thing is not the hour that I spent on my thing. And so like without that here, I'm just like, whoa, I have 3 emails in my inbox instead of 50, and like I am ahead of many of my plans, and like I have time to take this class on Illustrator. So that's been cool.
You know, I definitely have felt some of those similar feelings, and I know that, you know, with students being in school remotely, it's a really weird thing. We were definitely privileged to have the opportunity to be in a classroom and have our education that way, and who really knows what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to ask you to predict the future now. Your jobs, your specific line of work, I want to know about the job stability that you have moving forward and where you see it going. And let's start with Chrissy.
I feel pretty secure, just because in order to stay relevant and on top of the game, Nike has to innovate pretty intensely, and they need people to figure that out. And so I'm one of those people. So as long as I don't fail really hard, just stop doing my job, I think I'm good.
That's awesome. So despite the fact that there's all this stuff happening, like the research and development side of Nike is extremely important for Nike to stay cutting edge. So
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Amelia, what about you?
Yeah, to me, I'm kind of along in the same boat. Chrissy built, but she develops and designs these shoes, and then they kind of, get to us, and then we have to ship them out and we have to move them to other places. So we're kind of the middleman delivering all of our goods. So in that sense, we kind of have an important job, especially now with everybody buying things online and, doing all that stuff. Just transportation is just booming right now. So that's a huge plus. But it's interesting because, a lot of our products is the school buses, and now they're just kind of sitting around, not being used. There's some that are being used for, delivering food and things like that, which is great, but a lot of them are just sitting around, and that's going to be something for us to have to deal with in the future. Yeah.
So it's a really weird thing. I actually heard about this recently from someone from the Oregon Department of Education, that a school district down in Medford, Oregon, is taking Wi-Fi hotspots, food, and more supplies from house to house, so that load their supply or their all their tests and quizzes and stuff like that, and just driving around. So still utilizing some of the school buses, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. There we go.
So we're rounding up, kind of getting close to the end here, and I do have one last request of you, which is I want you to imagine yourself on the Kayla Fu and Danya Factor late night show.
Oh.
It's 2050. You've had a successful run. You're retired,
I'm
thankfully, old. And they ask you to preach about your job and why students should move in the directions that you did. And so you get your 30-second elevator pitch. You can have 5 seconds to think about it. We're going to go Chrissy and then Emilio, but we're going to be handing the microphone over to you to give your little elevator pitch. So Chrissy.
All right. 30 seconds to tell you about, it's to try hard. It's to like, really my 30 seconds on how to do well at your work is to like put in the work and like grow your skill set and like learn tangential skills and learn from other people and shadow people and look online for classes, look for conferences and ask your boss to send you to them, because they probably will, because they want you to be better at stuff too. And then take full advantage of like your own capacity to learn, and you will excel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chrissy. And passing over the microphone to Emilio.
Yeah, so by 2050, I'd envision everything. It'll be floating cars and everything, and there's gonna be, it's gonna look like the Jetson movies or something like that. So get in this role because you want to be able to say that you designed some of these flying cars. But no, in all seriousness, I think being on the technology front, I think is pretty cool and interesting. You always kind of be, always the first person to try something new. You're always sometimes you're the person that kind of, helps to design these things as well. So I think being on that technology forefront is something pretty cool, and it's something that I would look forward to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to take the mic back here. Since there's only a few of us in here, we could probably just have a discussion about this in terms of reflection. So for Kayla, I definitely learned a lot too. For Kayla, Danya, Adriana, even Chrissy and Emilio, is there anything that you learned from this interview that you're excited about? And how can you use that information potentially moving forward? So I'll kind of just open up the floor for that one.
I can go. So one thing from the interview that I learned and I'm like excited is probably how Christy said how if you fail to like keep moving forward and just keep working, and it's okay to fail but keep working on it. And she said even more and better. But yeah, that's the one thing that really stuck out to me.
Awesome. Thanks, Danya.
I could go next. Honestly, this whole interview has been very interesting, and I would, I'm not gonna say anything else about other interviews, but honestly, I found this interview very interesting, and learning about Nike and like the shoe process and the trials and also testing out cars, it's really awesome. And what stuck out to me was the part where you guys both like took a similar test to finding out which way to direct yourself towards a career, which is awesome. Yeah.
Then Adriana says, I'd just like to echo Chrissy on thoughts of failure and growth mindset. So retreat what Danya said. Absolutely. I want to bring in some ideas that Emilio talked about with kind of showing your videos, in the sense that it was like, how can you minimize the amount of waste that you're causing? Also through the processes, right, with Chrissy. How can you minimize that through building an online simulation that's going to tell you exactly what you need to know? And that also realizing that just because you're doing math or engineering doesn't mean that you're not going to do coding. There's like so many things underneath that umbrella that you're going to have to learn, that you're going to learn in that general direction. So there's still a lot of overlap, which also brings you back to a point that Chrissy made at the beginning, which is you don't always have to do the same thing that you studied. You can always shift gears, and tangentially there might be something else connected to that.
Most definitely. I got my degree in industrial engineering and then got my first job in that, and then like I don't do that anymore. And they were just like, oh, you're an engineer, you can just do an engineering job. Like that's a very tangential skill. And I really liked Emilio's call out to working in a team. Like I think that I didn't understand going into my profession that like so much of how we accomplish things is just done with a group effort.
Huge. Yes. Anybody else like to share anything? Awesome. I'm going to share my screen real quick. You can tell here we have parent support on Mondays. If you ever want to come out to that, 1 to 2:30, those are times where we help translate documentation, like Danya's been helping out with. You'll notice a bunch of stuff on the websites in Spanish. Thanks, Danya. In addition to that, we're going to be calling a lot of students and making sure that they understand what our programs are and that their parents can get involved. So if you want to help out in that, we'd love to have you. Tuesdays is article discussions. Now it's being led by 2 students. So if you want to learn some new things, discuss some really high level thoughts, definitely join that. On Wednesdays, Kayla and Christina lead workouts. So if you want to be sore, go to that. Absolutely. On this Wednesday is another informational interview with Shannon Cheng about working abroad. She's working to connect people in all over Latin America to New Zealand, and she's out of Wellington, New Zealand. She'll be calling in from her 9 o'clock, I believe. On Thursday, we have the Connectors Communication Team. We got one more spot if anybody's interested. And on Fridays, which both Chrissy and Amelia are invited to this Friday, we had to postpone last. You're more than welcome to come out, play games. We've done, we did Werewolf or Mafia. We've done that a couple times, played drawing games and potentially some categories. So last thing for students to look at is that we have a student career survey. If you are interested in attending this, and we want to make sure that we get the right careers down and invite the right professionals. So when you fill this out, you have a chance to enter a $25 gift card from Grubhub, Dutch Bros, or Netflix. And with that, thank you so much, Chrissy Wood and Dr. Emilio Jimenez. We really, really appreciate your time. It has been fantastic.
Yippee!
Oh yeah, the yippee!
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for setting this up. This is very good. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
And
Yes.
there's Adriana too.
Oh my gosh, with her Star Wars.
Yes, there's Star Wars in the background. Sorry.
Uh,